Hey, so what's up, guys? Got off work not too long ago, took my dog out. Sorry for the late start. Got caught up doing a couple real quick things, but we are here nonetheless. Needless to say, the brainstorming stream is actually going to have to be saved for another day, simply because I have a thesis going, but it's not really enough for me to want to delve into detail. But in general, I'm trying to do kind of a systematic analysis of online culture in general, more or less the Twitch stream, YouTube content creator bubble, or at least the general political sphere, just examining its evolution, how it's came to be, and the effects of it on online political discourse. But, anyways, it's a late stream, but it's going to be a goodie. With that being said, I do have a subject that I want to cover. In fact, let me go ahead and retitle the stream entirely because I'm going to be talking about uh, Jason Unruh's recent debate. He had a debate recently with literally who? I don't know the guy's name. Hold on a second. Let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Oh, that's an interesting story. Workers quitting shit jobs in record numbers. Here we go. Unruh versus James Dust James. Just Dust James, that's his name. So, we shall title this stream Jason Unruh. I know. Analysis of Jason Unruh versus Dust James debate. There we go. That way we have a subject to talk about. Oh, the broadcast must be scheduled in the future and within 1 year. Please edit the start time. Okay, so never mind. Never mind. You guys are just going to have to live with that video title, but that's okay. I mean, we can briefly review it again, and I can briefly summarize my thoughts, but I've already done a stream on it, kind of. If you could do me a favor and link that in the chat, I mean, we could briefly go over that, but I'm going to go ahead and give some exposition on what you guys see here. We'll share this screen. So, yeah, Dust James is, if you can't tell from his background, a Moppanite. Let me go ahead and refresh the page. Not loading for whatever reason, but so yeah, this guy is more or less Moppanite. He is a member of the Center for Political Innovation, and I guess he formally challenged Jason to a debate on American socialist patriotism. But they don't just talk about patriotism in this stream; they talk about a broad variety of subjects, from third worldism to the definition of socialism to Chinese Chinese foreign policy and so on. They cover a lot of subjects in here, a lot of different things that I personally wanted to touch up on and give commentary on. So sorry that the brainstorm stream is going to have to wait for another night, but for now, I leave you guys with this. But anywho, I pasted the link into the chat. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and see it on YouTube. Turn off that. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Here we go. In the chat. I've pasted link into the chat. I don't see it. This is the problem. I need you to post it again, Tovarish. I need you to post it again, but nah, it's whatever. I've already talked about Jackson's patriotism shtick. Let's go ahead and get on with this because this is like a lot more prevalent to what I wanted to talk about. But anyways, so yeah, these two are talking about it, and it starts off with socialist patriotism. I'm going to go ahead and skip to where it starts to get interesting. We are going to skip around quite a bit. Just a heads up. I listened to this debate while I was at work. I listened to it like 1.5 times now, basically. And I can say with confidence that all he talks about within the first 40 minutes is like his love for the American people, relating to the American people, how we can reach Americans, and so on. But we'll go ahead and play a little bit of it just so you guys can get a gist of what they're talking about.
Okay. Okay, hello everybody. Unfortunately, due to this camera setup and my limited technological ability, this is going to be the way that it is. You're just going to see me in a small screen and James in a large screen. It shouldn't be important, but that's just the way I managed to screw up. Okay, so basically, we already gave our intros, and I hadn't realized that I hadn't hit the go live button yet, so we're going to have to redo our intros. Basically, I make the argument that America should cease to exist based on the writings of Eldridge Cleaver, the Black Panthers, Commune, people who were all decolonists long before I was born. And they have a long series of reasons why that. And one of the reasons I wanted to make was to explain the difference between saying, herder, you're white, and whiteness, and why whiteness should be combated. Not white people or white skin, whiteness, and how that whiteness is tied into the very foundation of America and why that should be abolished, and more as to why America cannot be a progressive force. I mean, obviously the abolishment of slavery was progressive, etc. Why it is no longer a progressive force, and why it should cease to exist, and why a new society should be built instead, throwing away America, and the reasons why you would have.
Yeah, you can tell somebody is a level 10 cleric of the Church of Maupin. Look at this shit, man. He's got everything. He's got the bookshelves stacked full of books. He's got the suit. He's got the American flare tag, the tie, you know. This guy is straight up a dedicated priest of the Maupinite clan. But hey, I respect his conviction. Throughout this debate, I mean, I get the sense that this James guy, he's a good dude. Like, he gives me the sense that he's actually a really good dude. I mean, he clearly means well. He just seems very misguided and dogmatic to me. There's a lot of ideas that he backs and supports. Later on in the debate, you'll see what I'm talking about. He'll say, like, Venezuela and Iran are socialist, China's socialist. I mean, fuck, man. I hate this China debate so much just because I've had this conversation so many damn times. But looks like we're going to have it yet again tonight. But anyways, let me just go ahead and skip to where he starts talking.
And why a new society should be built.
Completely and utterly abolished. What I am arguing is I support an American patriotism that has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Okay, good.
And I can define that.
Okay, see. Yeah, and okay, I would agree with that for the most part. But the argument that I would make is that you cannot separate the two. They are one and the same. Now, I understand that you have a vision for America, and I can respect that. I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that America itself as a colonial power has to come to an end. And that doesn't mean just, oh, we still have America, but it's, I mean, how do you resolve the contradiction between America being a settler colonial state and justice towards those who have had their land stolen, not reparations, not, you know, like compensation, but those are bourgeois constructs. I'm talking about real justice for them and for the Black nation. How do you do that in your vision?
I support the right to self-determination of oppressed nations before, during, and after the revolution.
Okay, how is that practiced?
I support, I actively work with Chicano nationalists who would like to see an independent, free, and nationally liberated Aslan. I'd be glad to work with Afro-American nationalists as well as different indigenous nationalists. And I believe we would have a coalition of both workers and oppressed nations to overthrow the monopoly capitalist system. And then the state that comes after would be that of an agreement set upon by the forces that acted and took upon that revolution.
Okay, but this is preserving America, and there's no real autonomy there. It has to be an agreement between the settler colonial state and the indigenous, whereas the indigenous want the self-determination so they don't have to answer to a coalition.
They do not have to be a part of that coalition, but I don't think it may not be possible to gain power without such a coalition.
Okay, yeah, but we're talking afterward, after everything's been done. So they're arguing for an entire huge plot of land that says this is where we are enacting our own, you know, cultural specific laws, our own independence, and we do not answer to other people. We're not part of a federated state. We are separate from that. With our own autonomy, we write our own laws. We choose our own destiny, even if it's something undesirable. That's up to them to decide. Is that what you're arguing for?
Yes.
And where would that be?
particularly the Black Belt South, Aslan, the entire Aslan, maybe even Appalachia, different whole indigenous regions in the Midwest, the entire Dakotas.
So basically California. I think that's what Aztlan is. The region that we now know as California would basically be Aztlan, wouldn't it? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different maps of what decolonized territories would look like. And I've seen some interesting revisionings of the United States. But you'll believe it or not, guys, a surprising amount of people actually do want to balkanize. Like, I was watching Secular Talk for the first time in a while, and both Republican and Democratic voters and independents, there's like a growing number of people that wouldn't mind seceding from the Union. And in all honesty, that is more or less a good sign. It means people are losing confidence and people want something new. They just don't know what it would look like. I don't know what a new America would look like. It's a long conversation, but I feel like they get into a bit of a semantics game here. Like I said, this conversation starts out relatively boring, but it gets interesting later on. So we'll skip ahead a bit. How about that? Want to skip ahead a bit, guys? Let's skip ahead a bit. Wow, that is an unflattering picture.
Patriotism is ready for a comeback. There's more material conditions for solidarity than ever before.
So what you're saying is that when conditions become bad enough, they will have a spontaneous identity with each other in the same class?
What I'm saying is there's more material basis for solidarity than ever before. And as conditions fall, it will continue to be the case. And U.S. imperialism is falling. The global South is rising. And if we don't form the basis of a new government and a new system among a coalition of workers and oppressed people, it is not going to be pretty here. I believe the monopoly capitalists will go down screaming and kicking and just try to destroy us and the entire world as they can. It's up to us to build power now amongst those that can be organized to eventually take power from the monopoly capitalists.
Yes, I would agree with the building power. But so that would be a yes once conditions for everybody fall to a certain level.
It's not a snap. It's gradual.
But, yeah, it's a process. Yeah, but you're saying as they decrease, as things get worse, the potential for revolution will get better.
And there's more time and there's more chance now than ever before. We got to start the mobilizing.
I wouldn't agree.
And that's what Center for Political Innovation is doing, is trying to reach the broad masses of people that have never heard about leftism. And the Paul Robeson, the William Z. Foster version of American patriotism, that includes.
He doesn't recognize that as soon as you talk patriotism, you buy into Trumpist Make America Great. And he does talk about Global South as a problem for U.S. citizens. Yeah, so I would say I'm pretty much with you there. I mean, the issue is that you're never going to, out-patriot. And I mean, Jason says this later. You're never going to out-patriot the Republican Party. It's just not going to happen. The issue with American patriotism is it has literal centuries of baggage behind it. I mean, literal centuries of baggage. Like, that flag is associated with all sorts of horrible reactionary shit. And I'm not saying that there haven't been patriotic Americans that haven't fought for progress and so on. There haven't been struggles for change and for the better. And this is a point that I made in the live stream when I was talking about Jackson Hinkle. But a lot of that struggle was done in spite of America, not because of America. It's been people fighting in defiance of the United States government. And that's the main point that I'm trying to make, is that, we need a new regime. That's really it. There's not much to say. Not even GOP Trumpist patriotism, Proud Boys, militia. Oh, yeah, no, literal brown shirts. The people that you're going to appeal to with the patriotic rhetoric, the people that are drawn in by that rhetoric are literal fucking brown shirts, unironically. Exactly. And, it's kind of funny. You guys are going to see some pretty funny stuff later on coming from Dust James, and you're going to see the Dengist and Mopinite brainworms manifest as this debate goes on.
Respect for oppressed nations that is anti-imperialist can be a major ideological and inspirational component of that broad coalition of forces.
Why wasn't this successful during the Great Depression? There was no better time.
An excellent question. Why wasn't this strategy that he's advising successful during the 1930s? Why wasn't this strategy successful, Doki? If that really is the answer forward. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel is the question. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? Why don't we just stick with what we should be prioritizing in the first place, which is the class struggle? Why aren't we not prioritizing class struggle and trying to, ow, losing my train of thought. Thank you, doggy. Why are we not trying to struggle for things that actually grant material gains for workers? There are real reforms that actually could be struggled and fought for that could pave the way for bigger and better things down the line. And this is the reason why I highly emphasize the shorter work week, the 25-hour work week, 30-hour work week, because that it gives people more free time to think about this stuff. Think about it. When you're working 60 hours a week and you're tired and you come home from a long day's work, you don't want to do anything. But when people have all that extra time on their hands, they're more likely to think more and be active in the world around them and care about the world around them. It's one of the reasons why I think we saw BLM protests erupt. You have all these people that are crammed at home, sheltering in place during the pandemic. 40% of the population or 30% of the population, like record numbers of people, are unemployed. And suddenly people see that injustice of George Floyd, having that knee put on his neck, being strangled to death in public, basically. It was a slow public execution. People see that, they're outraged, and in a flurry of righteous indignation, you see the entire country, not just the country, but people all over the planet erupt in protests and solidarity all at once, spontaneously. They talk about Occupy Wall Street later, but this shit made Occupy Wall Street look like a joke. People everywhere were participating, and I mean everywhere. It was insane, and it terrified the ruling class. During the height of the BLM protests, you had millionaires and billionaires that were already flying off to their private yachts and underground bunkers because they were afraid of an insurrection. You had people out in the streets chanting "Eat the Rich." You had like street brawls with police and so on, like literal rioting and looting. And you had the cops dressed up in military fatigues, black bagging protest leaders and so on. It was some pretty hardcore shit last year. But right before it, coinciding everyone having all the time in the world to go out and protest and care about politics in the first place, was the fact that everyone was unemployed and they were all subsisting on unemployments, So I think that one of the number one things that should be struggled for in the short term is a shorter work week. A standard for a 30-hour work week is definitely what should be struggled for.
Roosevelt, it almost was, because Roosevelt saw it coming and bought off the workers.
And you think they can't buy off the workers again? They're doing it right now.
I don't think it'd be possible, because
They're doing it right now.
Of those monopoly capitalists was at its zenith. Now they don't have the money to do it. They don't have the position of power. Their power is on the way up. If we organize power, we can take power this time. And it was working. It was the Communist Party. There was this good story where a racist person was about to be evicted. And they're like, how can I help? They started blaming on themselves. Why did I lose that job? And then they lost all hope. And then the only person that was helping the working class materially was the Communist Party. And the Communist Party showed up, and the leader of that group was a
walk time. What do you mean walk time? I just took this motherfucker on a walk. Why do you think I was late? I took him out and I walked him for like 20 minutes. Man, you just want me to be all up in your world. You just want to be all up in my world, don't you, baby?
black man. And the black man and the Communist Party fought against the cops and stopped him from being evicted. And then he was no longer a racist from that point. And there's stories from this in the 1930s and the 1940s in my home state of North Carolina. There was former Klansmen who burned their Klan cards and joined the Communist Party because they saw that the Communist Party was the only one fighting for poor white chicks like myself.
Okay. In the end, it worked.
It was bought off because they had the power to do so. They no longer have that power. The U.S. empire no longer has the material wealth available to have a labor aristocracy like it once did.
It could go back. All it would have to do is
China's on the rise. Everything China makes, every dollar, every Nicaraguan.
All you have to do is actually tax the rich.
Less money going to the monopoly capitalists. Every time Iranian people enjoy their own resources, that is less money going to them. The rise of the global south has shut off the source of the super profits to the monopoly capitalists to an extent where that would not be able to happen.
Yeah, but they still have that hegemonic position. They still have that money, and they are buying off workers right now. That's what the Democrats are debating right now about the whatever stimulus. I'll explain that. And that's the argument that we as third worldists have always made, that you can always buy off first world people. And even Lenin noted that in the Second International, that the social democratic countries were just buying people off.
Okay, so one thing about that, and this is a point I don't know why more people don't make, but rate of profit is a lot lower than it used to be. Global returns on investment, because of how expensive constant capital has become, is lower and lower. And the wealthy are having to invent increasingly abstract and barbaric ways to realize return on investments. And in the wake of this, and I mean, this is a point that he kind of makes here in a minute. Like, he kind of makes this point here in a minute, but the point is that the rate of profit is falling, and with a lower rate of profit means that there's an even lower share for there's a lower share for social democratic reform, and it ultimately will have to come out of the wealthy's and powerful's pockets, and it means we would have to tax the billionaires out of existence. But the issue is that you are going to face an ungodly amount of struggle in the wake of that, an ungodly amount of struggle that would take the fucking threat of revolution once more in order for that to actually happen. And my point here is that if you have the threat of revolution on your side, if you actually have the ability to threaten these people into giving up some of their money, why stop with the slice? Why not take the whole loaf of bread, yo? That's my question.
You know, there are people with revolutionary potential in America. We do not say that there is no one, but we're saying most whites don't. There's people like in West Virginia, or places known as sacrifice zones, which are brutally oppressed. I would even consider most areas of Ohio one of those areas where that is possible. But the actual desire to overthrow the system, for the most part, in the white population, isn't there. The last time we saw that, they were marching for Trump. And you could argue they were trying to get back to an America that no longer exists, that can't exist anymore. But that's what it is that they want. They want that 1950s brutally repressive civil rights America. And that they're not going to be able to overthrow. If anything, they're going to be used. I mean,
yeah, no, exactly. Global capital exploits the world. Post-Fordist technology means they don't need a U.S. mass market and don't need reliable factory workers. It pushes the gig economy, and that's what I mean. Like, they have to figure out increasingly abstract ways in order to realize returns on investment, which is why they have people running around doing shit just for the sake of doing shit, you know? That's why we have all these pointless fucking gig jobs. You know, John Maynard Keynes actually predicted by the year 2000 that the average work week, because of how industrially productive we were becoming, that the average work week would actually shrink down to about 15 hours after a certain... Stop! And that, yeah, 15-hour work weeks. But we didn't go that way. Why? Because the ruling class, one of the ways that they control us is to keep us busy, you know? Instead of working to reproduce ourselves, they keep us working to reproduce ourselves, plus working the extra 50 to 60 hours needed in order to reproduce them. So, yeah, end-stage capitalist is massive concentration of wealth and competition between multi-billionaires. They will take anything they can to compete with each other. Yeah, exactly. So, moving on, because things get even more interesting later on. Moving on.
You have to support that American flag, and you have to support the wars. And it is a manipulation. It is a twisting of patriotism. We, the anti-imperialist patriots, are the real patriots, because the super patriots are destroying those American communities.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about super patriotism, the difference between patriotism and super patriotism. Basically, the propagandized right-wing patriotism and you know, his revolutionary patriotism or whatever, the Moppanite concept, the old school concept. I don't know, man. I just feel like this is a fucking hill that they're dying on. This is not a hill worth dying on. Why don't we just prioritize the class struggle? Why don't we prioritize the class struggle and prioritize the real material oppression that all the downtrodden, most broken communities and exploited communities within the United States feel within the context of the service worker and what's left of the industrial proletariat? Because we do have an industrial proletariat, and we do have like a working class, but it's primarily concentrated within the service economy now. I don't understand why we don't try to reach out to those people, why we don't try to tailor a message to try and build like solidarity in general. Like, why do we have to do this spooky patriotic bullshit? You know, I don't understand like why we have to pander. Why pander? Why not try to convert people with our message is my question. Yeah, exactly. It just sounds like patriotism all over again. Is super patriotism just patriotism? That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. It's another distraction away from the... Yeah, exactly. It's a distraction from the class struggle. I rest my case. It is a distraction from the class struggle. And I'm not about shit that takes away from the class struggle, all right? We should prioritize the class struggle over all and anything else. I'm resizing this window. Don't mind me. But I'm going to play it again.
The super patriots, the monopoly capitalists, and with using super patriotism, are getting people to go along with their own destruction. They put crack cocaine in the black community. They have put opioids and methamphetamines in the rural areas. We have less and less money. We have less and less resources. We have less and less benefits. And America is being destroyed by the monopoly capitalists. The America I love is being destroyed by the monopoly capitalists. And that is American patriotism.
That's your view of what American patriotism should be. And some of those manifestations are true, yes.
Historical examples of that, and that is a powerful force.
Yeah, there are historical examples of that, but that is not what it has been.
That is what I am promoting.
That's what you're promoting. Yes, I agree. That's what you're promoting. It's not an attack on me.
Why are you so offended by this?
I'm offended because patriotism, that's your interpretation of it. That's not what it is. In real life, yeah, it is. You burn the flag. It's like, yeah, you are insulting the troops by doing it. That's literally like the first.
You're insulting their grandma's cooking. You're insulting country music. You're insulting jazz music. That's what you're insulting. When you come off as anti-American to a regular working class community, which I have been part of. I come from
all your whatever. The only people that are going to be offended by that shit are fucking people who live out in the countryside, like the more reactionary components of workers that live out in the countryside, as well as like trailer parks and so on. Most people that are concentrated within the cities do not give a fuck. I was getting cheered on, people. Like, when I was at the BLM protests, I was getting fucking cheered on when I set the American flag ablaze. All right? I actually got interviewed by the local news station for it, and they were asking me why I was doing it. And I was talking about why we need to fucking tear down the old and why we need the new. And I was basically talking about the need for communism and class struggle live on fucking television in front of thousands of people. It was pretty lit.
What we're really doing is just saying all of that historical stuff that happened, that is the basis for America, just isn't included.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that most people do not really give a fuck about this country. Like, when you get down to it, your average person, my age group and younger, is not patriotic. I mean, many of them are, but not nearly as many as you think. Like, patriotism and a lot of the components within the ideological superstructure, patriotism, nationalism, religion, traditions, like a lot of the things we know, right-wing ideology, guys, is on its way out the door. Right-wing ideology, period, is on its way out the door culturally within this country. And in the wake, we are moving towards a sterile, ultra-commodified, gigified, neoliberal hell state where everybody is equally worthless before Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the techno-capitalists that lord over everything within this rentier, neo-feudal vampire capitalism that we will be inhabiting within the next 15 to 20 years while the planet sets ablaze on fire. That is the world we will live in. The Maupinites are worse than tailists because at least a tailist would know to... you guys want to know what a tailist is? A tailist is a fucking ContraPoints or a Vosh, all right? That's a tailist. Someone who tails the psychology, the psyche of the masses. who tries to appeal to them, you know, from the tail of their consciousness. These people are even worse than that. They're like 50 miles behind the tail, because at least a tailist will actually appeal to people's popular sentiments, and the popular sentiments within the general id and zeitgeist of the Americans is that the Democrats are slightly better. You know, people are turned on by the Bernie Sanders message. That's where people are at right now. That's where the progressive movement is at. That's where they resonate. All right. These people are way further behind that when they're trying to appeal to all this jingoistic right-wing bullshit. All right. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Your version of
That is
patriotism.
what created the system. That is
Yes.
the history. The moral technique says that you can't change the past, but you can change the future. And
Yes,
anyone who tells you otherwise is a lethargic.
Yeah, that's correct. These patriots are shooting themselves in the foot, pandering to some while alienating others. It ain't worth. No, it really isn't. Exactly. Yeah. Why should I care about a country that's done nothing? Yeah. No. What has America done for you or I lately? What has the United States of America done for me lately? You know, bombed some innocent brown people to death in my name. What has this country done for me lately? It's dumb. It really is.
Devil. Yeah, I know. I know that quote too. I'm not saying to change the past. I'm saying to address the crimes that were committed
We
by
need a new
it.
America. We need a new patriotism.
But we don't need a new America. We need a new society, period. We don't need any more America. Sorry, this is your interpretation of what American patriotism is.
As usual, Jason is right. We don't need to call it. I mean, we can call it America if we want, but it wouldn't really be America in the sense that we know it. It would be a new regime altogether. But again, Jason is 100% right. That's the main point that I want to make here. Moving on.
But historically, that has not been what it is. There are examples
America
of that.
simply means the land and the people.
Sorry, that's what you think it means. That has not been its manifestation.
That is what many people. That is what many people believe it means.
And that doesn't make it true just because they believe it.
But since they believe it, they will take material action against monopoly capitalists to defend it.
Which they're not doing.
They have and they will. And I explained that it happened in the 1930s and 40s. And as
Yeah,
labor
the
aristocracy-
1930s and 40s. You have to go
and
back
now-
70, 60
now the
years
material
under different conditions to say that.
Now we're having worse conditions like they did then. And this is a cycle. I mean, there was a labor era.
No, conditions are not worse than they were in the Great Depression.
They are worsening.
Worsening, yes.
They are getting to that point. Labor aristocracies come and go. They're not constant. The reason why you had the opportunism of the Second International was because there was a labor aristocracy. But there wasn't a labor aristocracy in Russia, and a revolution happened there. And
No,
now
there wasn't. Not that there wasn't a labor
revolution happened
aristocracy.
in Russia.
No, I'm saying there was no labor aristocracy.
There wasn't in Russia.
Yeah,
and that's
there wasn't.
what happened there. That's why. But now
Moving on.
we have less and less
So
labor.
they talk more about this. They talk about Occupy Wall Street. They talk about. He actually makes an analogy between Occupy Wall Street and the Paris Commune. He was trying to say that that's like our equivalent to the Paris Commune. Occupy Wall Street's even further than that. We aren't in 1905, brother. We aren't even in 1871. We're more like not even in 1796. We're even further than that. All right. Where we are right now in terms of our movement and class consciousness is, I mean, after the fall of the USSR and the rise of neoliberalism, we basically got obliterated as a movement and set back to the Stone Age. So if you guys really want to know where we're at right now, we may as well be in fucking 10,000 BC. I mean, that's pretty pessimistic. We're a little bit further than that. We've invented the wheel. That's where we're at right now, guys. We're not in 10,000 BC. We've invented the wheel. All right. We've invented the wheel as a movement, while these motherfuckers are trying to reinvent the wheel with their American patriotism.
Aristocracy, and you can call it resistance, but resistance will eventually win. First, you build resistance. That resistance will eventually take power. And even if you're only advocating resistance, the version of patriotism that I'm supporting will support and help build that resistance.
Okay, because now you're kind of pushing third worldist theory that the first world will only become revolutionary or will have the necessary class consciousness once it's been deprived of its superior position in the world.
And it's happening day by day.
I would argue that I don't think it's anywhere near where you think it is. It is declining. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think it's at where you think
So
it
there's
is.
more material basis for resistance than ever before.
Yes, and it still doesn't amount to very much. within the majority of the white population.
So let's do it. Let's get out and mobilize where we can mobilize. Let's get out and get different ideas to different people that will push them against the monopoly capitalists.
And we've been hearing that for decades.
And it's happening more and more every day.
It's happening more and more among natives and blacks, among most of the white population.
I talk with another white worker in a small podunk town, just like me, who became a communist.
Okay.
Every day, they come out to me, they reach out to me, they watch my show.
Okay.
We got a group of folks in a rural town in Texas, Chicano and white, working against forming solidarity networks.
Okay, and where is the resistance being manifested?
The multiracial, multinational resistance.
Where is it?
We're seeing this in Chicago. We're seeing it in Texas. It's coming from the poorest parts of the country.
And these are not dominated by the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so they get into co-opting, the effects of co-opting on the movement, and so on. Let's go ahead and move up a little bit. Things get really interesting when he starts talking about what socialism means. That's when he reveals his hand. So you guys want to skip to where he reveals his hand? Does that sound good? You want to skip to where he reveals his hand? Let's skip to where he reveals his hand and talks about how Iran and Venezuela are socialist.
More than ever before, because there's less of a labor aristocracy. And people
Palestine's
are starting to see downfall.
Oh yeah, the diminishing of the labor aristocracy. Now, the labor aristocracy in America is alive and well. Don't kid yourself on that one. But anyways.
That's not the U.S. Army doing Palestine. That's Israel doing Palestine.
And people were tired of fighting the wars against Turkey and against Asia.
Oh.
And the American people are tired of being the cannon fire of monopoly capitalists. And there's growing anti-war sentiments.
A sentiment, a growing anti-war sentiment. Yes, I definitely do agree that that's there.
Because of the worsening conditions. And that's room to mobilize. That's room to start building.
Okay, but I don't see that materially manifesting in any kind of significant action.
So, Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street was nothing more than a small thing that grew and then completely went into the hands of the Democratic Party. So no, it's not an example.
Were you a part of it?
I wasn't in the United States. No, but literally, yes. Yeah, and literally, yes, they went right into the Democratic Party.
Let me tell you about Occupy Wall
Okay, so they didn't sell out to the Democratic Party. Did they or did they not?
Let me tell you about it. It started out as something that was
So I'm going to guess that's a yes.
It started from the beginning.
Yes, I agree. It was.
co-opted.
Yeah, of course it was co-opted because you could buy it
They
off.
could not control. They was occupied.
If they couldn't control it, how did the Democratic Party take control of it?
They lost control of it. There was Occupy Greensboro, and Occupy Raleigh, and Occupy DC, and you had people whose parents were right-wing bigots, were out there at Occupy Wall Street.
Okay, so he makes an interesting point here. Excuse me, Doggy. Move your ass. But anyways, so he actually makes an interesting point here about co-opting and recuperation of spontaneous uprisings. That is exactly what happened with BLM. I don't know if you guys remember what happened with like corporations. There's corporate sponsors, but I mean, Jason Unruh brings up the point. BLM is basically owned by George Soros. I mean, he's got a point. It's pretty much owned. It is co-opted. I mean, you should still support it to the extent that you can, but one issue, the main issue that I've noticed with any sort of spontaneity is it usually ends up getting co-opted, recuperated, and crushed. And I don't really know how you combat that sort of thing because your average American has the amount of solidarity and class consciousness of a fucking dodo bird. And I don't know. This is part of what my brainstorming video was going to be about, was basically how to accumulate or actually grow class consciousness. And one of the things that I was going to suggest was the development of a counterculture, you know. Now, I know it goes from material base to superstructure, you know, and you should always start with the base, but I feel like there are things that we can do from the superstructural standpoint to produce, to reproduce or produce socialist economic relations and undermine capitalist economic relations, because the whole point of the superstructure is to reproduce the economic base. But if you can undermine elements and aspects within the superstructure, then over time it waters down and reduces the system's ability to reproduce itself effectively, is the general idea that I had in mind. I know I'm disgusting. I'm eating calluses off my hand. But anyways, yeah. One idea I had was just freeware or free stuff. Why don't we figure out a way to get all the shit, like like rents, like how they have all these premiums, like YouTube Premium, they have Netflix and so on. What if we found a way to get all that shit to people for free? Just getting people as much free shit as possible and making it like open source. I mean, that'd be a good way to undermine and crash the rate of profit. If you could figure out a way to do that, just make it so that you can get people things for free so they don't have to get behind any price walls or price barriers, and you can just get people access according to need. I mean, establishing like communistic software, so to speak. I mean, that would be fucking lit. But I mean, I know the status quo would start to crack down on it after a certain point, but yeah, probably. Well. Anywho, I don't know if there's a land-back organization separate from the movement. My only issue is that anarchists has only tried that. My only issue is that anarchists have already tried that and failed. Well, I don't know. I guess that you guys have solved the riddle. What are we to do? What are we to do? All right. What are we to do to make the world communist? Because it seems like every time someone rises to the occasion, every time there's a nail that sticks out, it ends up getting hammered back down. I mean, what was Moppin supposed to be? Like our champion? These people who are champions of the masses that have like they have like 10 to 20,000 subscribers, This guy's like, what? Moppin's supposed to be the leader of a movement. Moppin and his group in the CPI are a fringe fucking cult. I'll say that as many times as I need to. These people eschew thought that is outside of their realm. They are extremely tribalistic. They are so sensitive. They can't stand up to the barest bit of fucking criticism, and I find that to be an antithesis of Marxian thought. There's a lot of false dichotomies as well. Like, you guys want to see what a false dichotomy looks like? I'm not going to leak anything, but just to give you an idea. Hold on. One uno momento, Tovarich. Hold on, one moment. I'm going to show you guys something. You guys want to see the kind of false dichotomies that Moppin enforces, the Moppinite crowd? Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'll just share the whole screen with you. Actually, no, I won't. Make sure I'm not. Oh, here we go. I got this. So, someone showed this to me. Check this out. In Moppin's mind, this is in Moppin's mind, any Marxist would understand that people say abolish billionaires because the main way to become a billionaire in today's system is through hyper-exploitation. This is an absolutely pathetic semantic game. As a Marxist, it's your job to help people understand this difference, and most Americans already do. It's my job to get Americans to understand we aren't a pessimistic death cult that is opposed to wealth, and that our agenda will result in all humanity becoming wealthier. So you see, guys, it's a false dichotomy. You're either on the right team, the Moppinite team, the Moppinite LaRoche team, where you're in favor of your socialist billionaires, your communist trillionaires, your transhuman, transdimensional, hyper automated gay space communist octillionaires. You're either in favor of Moppinite thought or you're a pessimistic death cult. You want everyone to be poor. You think everyone deserves to be poor and suffer. Man. It's so stupid, dude. It's a fucking false dichotomy. And what Caleb is doing with this whole abolish billionaires is anti-Marxist stick has got to be the dumbest shit I've ever heard anyone say in my life. Like, damn well, Caleb knows damn fucking well that when people are saying abolish billionaires, they're referring to the capitalist class. But Caleb has to come along and fucking equivocate. He has to come along and equivocate and be like, what do you mean? Abolish billionaires? That's anti-Marxist, We should want everyone to be rich. That's not what people are talking about. Newsflash, Caleb. That's not what people are talking about. Oh my God. Oh my God. Again, when Caleb and Jason debated about this, Jason Unruh, 100% of the right. Guys, stop. Forget all the memes. Drop all the memes for a second. Jason Unruh is right about literally fucking everything. Like, I'm getting to the point to where the older I get and the more cynical I get, the more I begin to realize Jason was literally right about everything. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, everyone makes memes about Jason. Everyone makes fun of Jason. Haha, fat guy with the mohawk, you know, yada yada yada. He lets guys in Black Bloc do drama videos on his channel. He you know, he's he does this and that. Like, but he's right. Like, literally, like, when is Jason really wrong about anything? What is Jason really fucking wrong about, you know? Jason is 100% of the right, and Caleb Maupin's a little fucking bitch. And I say that with 100% confidence. Like, seriously. But we're getting distracted. Let's get back to this debate. Yeah, no, and that's what they do. These people are fucking pathetic. They're all about optics. Let me tell you something, man. I just recently had a comment on one of my motherfucking videos of people telling me that, oh, how are you going to sit here and say that, like, Maupin and Hawes give people a good look, or give the tankies, the MLs, a bad look online when you did the Joker laugh? You did the Joker laugh. Bro, I've got about 700 comments on a recent video of mine of nothing but 12-year-old Bosch fans saying the exact same shit. You people are literally no different. I'm telling you right now that these correct MLs, these correct tankies, they're not fucking MLs. They're a bunch of red social democrats is what they are. But these people, these fucking red social democrats, they're literally no different from the Voschites. Like the Maupin, the Haas, these people, they've got their own little hug boxes. They've got their little hug boxes where there is no contradictions. But and if you dare insult or criticize or scrutinize their sacred cow or disagree with their sacred cow, they get so upset, you know, and they don't even have any counter arguments. All they have to say is they insult your character, they insult the way you look. Like, dude, that's all these people have. All they can do is tell me to see, then call me a LARPer. Like, they literally have nothing against my rebuttals. I'm telling you right now. Like, we're on the right side of this. Just saying. I think I have a better chance of becoming a billionaire and joining the 1% than a revolution happening in the U.S. You goddamn right about that. I have a better chance of winning the lottery than a revolution happening in the U.S. But I mean, we'll build what we can. We'll do what we can. I'm not going to give up. I mean, I know there's not going to be a socialist revolution in this country, but I want to gather some kind of class consciousness in one way or another, build some kind of resistance. Because, like Jason says, while there may not be room for revolution, there is room for resistance. Anyways, back to what I was doing. Nope. I meant to share this Chrome tab. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Let's go ahead and continue with this debate.
That we're talking about the need to go after the 1%. And when Occupy Wall Street became a force that they could no longer...
Because that's literally, in terms of at least most of the American experience, that's exactly what happened.
Infrastructure necessary. We can build...
Yeah, okay, now we're going back to the infrastructure question. Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, okay, they agree.
Movements can gain concessions why they build power. You have to give something to the people for them to fight on your side. So you fight. Revolutions can fight in the mass movements for basic concessions as they build the revolutionary vanguard.
Yes, but they're not building revolution. They're taking the concessions and then stopping.
Conditions are worsening and they'll not move forward with concessions.
So at some indeterminate point in the future, when basically the system has collapsed, then there will be
start building the infrastructure. Now.
Yeah, you start building.
Never let down your arm. You know what? I was trained by folks who understood that the reason why the revolution wasn't happening was because of the.
Am I third worldist now? What is it called when you 100% agree with somebody, but you don't really want to take on a specific label? I don't really know what that's called, but I mean, I've always been kind of third worldist adjacent, but Yeah, no. My position right now at this exact moment, after downing my third beer, is my Jason Unruh is 100% right for the most part. Is my current tendency right now, because it's true. Jason's fucking right. But anyways,
labor aristocracy. And now,
Jason, you were right and I was wrong. I'm sorry for making a video criticizing you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't regret making my video criticizing third worldism. It was a good attempt. I don't know. I'm very much on the fence about it because on the other hand, I also feel like it's kind of a cope too, like a cope for the fact that like communists have not reached the American masses, and I feel like there's other reasons besides the fact that things are just too good. I feel like there's other reasons behind it as well. But in this moment, I am 100% with Jason Unruh, at least when it comes to this whole fucking debate.
in their lifetime, they're seeing that fall, and they are seeing more interest in socialism and communism than ever before.
Well, that I would question, considering what it is that they believe socialism is, because you talk to a lot of American socialism, they think it's when the Democrats spend money.
No, I'm talking about the hardcore old left, people who support and respect Paul Robeson and William Z. Foster, the lingering old left that has been sleeping, that has been in small groups, was continued to be active in the labor movement and continued to teach scientific socialism to whoever will listen. I'm the product of that lingering legacy, and there is more opportunity than ever before. They would kill to be in my shoes, to have the opportunity I do to organize and teach and spread a socialist message.
And you think it's better than the Great Depression?
I didn't say that. Worse
You
than
did. You said it was the best.
in their lifetime. People who were in the Great Depression.
Okay, yeah, in their lifetime. Yes, that's true.
People who were in the Great Depression died. My great grandma was in the Great Depression, and
So
she
was
was the
mine.
same age as Castro and died about the same time.
Okay, but these are all things that you claim you're going to do that historically have not worked. Okay, yeah, you say it's happening.
More people are showing
Okay,
interest.
so now they're arguing in circles. I want to get to the part to where he says some really silly excuse me, I had to burp. I want to get to the part where he says some really silly shit.
In socialism,
It doesn't even necessarily matter. You say these things will happen
they are
because
you are seeing more and more working class communists than ever before. And a lot of these anti-war activists were communists, that trained Caleb and worked with Caleb. And then an Occupy Wall Street, some of the same construction workers. I love the Black Panthers. They are the most revolutionary.
so they were
their
wrong.
system was stale. It eventually collapsed. They had problems. The Soviet Union.
The Soviet
Here we
Union
go.
didn't
Here's where the conversation starts to piss me off. I'm going to start from here.
They've lifted 850 million people out of poverty. Every country they do business
Which is
with
questionable.
has their conditions improved.
aside from redefining what poverty is.
Oh yeah, so they're talking about how the great economic miracle and success that is China, how they supposedly they lifted 800 million people out of poverty. All right, so economic growth improves living standards. Yes, it is a fact that when you have advances in the productive forces, when you have wage growth, when you have full employment, these things have a habit of improving living standards. Advancing science, technology, and productive forces have a habit of improving the general levels of wealth and living standards within society. This is true. China has improved living standards rather quickly, and they have done it quicker than other countries have that have not had socialist revolutions and have maintained the traditional laissez-faire capitalist road. China had its economic base built under the watch of Mao Zedong, and a lot of their economic groundwork and infrastructure laid through command economy before they liberalized and opened up to the West. And they are doing very well for themselves because they did what they did. However, they did not have to liberalize. They did not have to open up to the West. There was another path. But unfortunately, Lin Biao and the other people within the CPC that could have mended relations with the Soviets, well, never ended up seizing power in the ways that they needed to seize power. And if it wasn't for the fact that they opened up, then China would have basically become one giant North Korea. But it is true. Their system does work. Their system has worked. They have a very advanced form of red social democracy, but it is not socialism. And you will see in the coming hour or so why and how our friend here, James, is has lost the plot on this conversation.
China literally just changed the definition of what poverty is.
Go to any tourist area and you see more Chinese people than ever before.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with that. Look at the way the American people were.
Oh, wait, hold on. There's a comment I want to read. Great Depression was literally the most revolutionary time in the U.S. Saying people died is like saying that people died in World War I. So Russia couldn't have revolution because people died. So no revolution. Okay. I don't know how to take that comment. I apologize. I'm a white guy and I love the Black Panthers. I just don't ask to stand by anything they stand for. Yeah. True that.
Or 100 years ago, look at them now. America has lifted 300 million people out of poverty.
There's a growing middle class in China because of the
That's your first mistake. Why is there a building a labor aristocracy
of a socialist system?
Again, right. Absolutely right. Income inequality has, in China, complete opposite direction of socialism they have been heading. They have been moving further towards liberalization and so on. They have actually been moving, I don't know, maybe Xi's reversing some of it. He probably is. But as far as I'm aware, China has been liberalizing more and more for decades. They have been moving further away from socialism, not closer.
Building a labor aristocracy, why are you creating more classes? Communism is supposed to be getting rid of classes, not making more of them.
So the main priority of socialism is to expand the productive forces, to eliminate scarcity. And only when you eliminate scarcity can you get rid of the classes in the state.
And that is achieved by creating middle class, a labor aristocracy. Oh, shit. Hold on, press use. Okay. Yeah, by creating a middle class. Like, I can literally show you...
By improving the conditions of the people.
So I can show you the chart where inequality in the Soviet Union went straight down, except in the case of the Second World War, and continued to do so until the economic reforms. So they were wrong.
Their system was stale. It eventually collapsed. They had problems. The Soviet Union
didn't economically collapse. It politically collapsed.
It became stale.
By revisionists taking over.
They lost the growth that they were able to have.
No, because there's
it was able to expand and grow because it was more flexible.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to stop him right there. I am getting so fucking sick of people not knowing what the fuck they are talking about on this subject. The USSR did not stagnate and fail. That is not what happened. What happened was they had a set of policies in a way that they were doing economy that was woefully out of date after a certain point and outlived its usefulness. On one hand, poor incentives on the other, as well as a political machine that was way too top down with respect to the way that it operated, and they were trying to reform it, and they were trying to give people more autonomy on the local and regional level when it came to economic decision making. They had a reform in 1980 where they were trying to do that. They had some genuine issues, but the point is their collapse was not economic. Jason is absolutely right. They never truly stagnated. Their economic growth didn't really slow to stagnation pace till the 1980s. And it was because they were prioritizing extensive economic growth up to that point, just trying to increase raw numbers and raw resource harvesting in and of itself. But on the other hand, by the 1980s, they had been making the switch towards intensive growth measures and light industry and increased efficiency through resource output and allocation. They were starting to tackle the issues. The problem is that Gorbachev and his clique got in power, and within his clique, they were basically literal Sockdem liberals, and they wanted to turn the Soviet Union into a Sockdem country. The problem is that their system was never designed for that retarded shit, and it all ended up falling apart in the end, to everyone's shock and surprise. You know, it really was just a political crisis. Like, the collapse of the USSR had nothing to do with economics, you know. The regime could have absolutely been salvaged, but anyways.
Yeah, and able to expand in other people's countries as well.
No, expand a larger economic bloc that is causing polarity against the global South, led by China against the Western imperialists.
Of course, China expanded further as it has a larger population. China's development has already
did
reached
not
its own
stop.
borders.
The progress of history did not stop after the fall of the Soviet Union.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I would say that
I didn't say it did.
the revolution in Iran is an example of the global South rising. Syria, even
I try to avoid critiquing China at a time when China is in a crosshair of U.S. empire. So you just throw nuance out the window when push comes to shove. I don't think that's a good thing. You can listen, man. You can critique China without being a simp for U.S. imperialism. You can say China has its problems on one hand, while on the other hand saying that it's not good that America's constantly trying to escalate and meddle and do bullshit in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Uyghurnistan. You know, I don't think it. I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. You can hold both positions at the same time. It's not a contradiction, bro. Like, I don't understand what you're getting at here. Jason is simply being ridiculous. Wait, I'm so confused. Yeah, keeping it real on China. We got to keep it real. We have to be objective in our analysis. We can't just like China worship and call everyone who disagrees with us ultra left or say, you're a Western chauvinist. Just and then close our ears to all criticism. Like, I don't understand why people get like this, why all nuance goes out the window, and why all of a sudden we just got to be drones that aren't allowed to question things and be nothing but a bunch of good little yes men. I really genuinely don't understand why, like, to be anti-criticism is to be anti-Marxist, like, fucking seriously.
Saddam were all examples. Gaddafi and Libya.
Saddam, oh man, that is a spicy take. Spicy and pepper. That is a spicy take. Saddam Hussein was an anti-imperialist and populist. You mean the same? Are we talking about the same Saddam Hussein who was basically oil butt buddies with the U.S. throughout the 1980s and like an anti-leftist, at least until he decided he wanted to take the oil fields for himself, and only then he became our enemy? Are we talking about the same Saddam here, man? Are we talking about the same Saddam Hussein, my man? Like, Jesus, oh man, this reeks of ideology.
All examples, nationalist struggles, improving the conditions of the people in the global South.
Saddam Hussein, really?
Yes, improve the conditions of the people.
I know, right?
He was an anti-imperialist. Now, he was used to fight against Iran, just like China was used against.
Because that's anti-imperialism.
Anti-imperialist countries can be used to manipulate and fight against each other, even if it's not in their interest. You see China being manipulated against Vietnam and vice versa.
I don't think China's being manipulated to fight against Vietnam.
But you certainly see the U.S. trying to make inroads in Vietnam to use them as a pawn against the Chinese.
I would agree with that. I think Vietnam is highly
The revolutionary movement didn't stop with the Soviet Union. All these nationalist struggles were part of the global class struggle.
Yes.
Anytime you improve the conditions of the global South, you're taking money directly out of the hands of the monopoly capitalists here.
So really your argument is we have more revolutionary potential than ever before because China.
Because of China and the rising global South.
No, really because of China. I mean, if you're talking about economically, then yeah, it's pretty much all China.
China is one of the main forces, but they are the main force within a larger anti-imperialist economic bloc. Iran trades with China. Venezuela trades with China. Bolivia.
What choice do they have?
And they're offered far better conditions. And because
they're offered no conditions for trading with the U.S.
Far better conditions than the West.
Better conditions. They can't trade with the U.S. at all.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, it really is that way. Like, America sanctions the fuck out of these countries because they don't kowtow to our interests. They don't, like, basically bend over backwards and let us fuck them without lube. So they have no choice but to go to China. I mean, because China is like the other pole on the other end of the world. So, of course, these countries are going to be more China aligned, and that's the reason why you get like Kim Jong-un and why you got like Fidel Castro saying, "Comrade Xi Jinping and Jack Ma are great communist leaders who are paving the way towards fully automated luxury gay communism," and it's because they want them fucking Chinese Gibbs, bro. These are third world countries. Desperately poor. They want them Chinese Gibbs, which is why they're going to fillet the Chinese government and talk all that good shit, It makes absolutely perfect sense. So just because Fidel Castro and Kim Jong-un say China is socialist does not make it so.
Why did they have the ability to go socialist in the first place? Why didn't they collapse? It's because China was there to offer them trade.
You can't claim Venezuela's socialist.
Venezuela is a socialist country.
So socialism.
Yeah,
is
there
when the
we go.
majority of
There
your
we go. That's
economy-
what I was talking about right there. This is where it gets real good. Oh man. Whew. Let's go ahead and get started. This is where it gets interesting.
is run by
Venezuela-
capitalists.
Socialism is when you have escaped the profit motive and you have a collective.
You think the profit motive has been abolished in Venezuela?
The state has supremacy over. Profit.
No, they don't. In no way, shape, or form is that true. That is absolutely false.
The main economic resource that built the economy was the oil industry, and it wasn't run by capitalists. It was run by a government that had control over it. That had massive amount of inroads and controlled by the people.
Yeah,
the economy
that would be the
overall-
oil industry, not the whole country.
The economy.
You're
overall-
redefining socialism as social democracy.
No, there's a difference.
Socialism is when 2/3 of your economy is run by the private sector, and you have generalized commodity production, and you don't actually operate according to a rational plan. That is socialism. You see, this is my big issue with the Maponite Haas cult, is that they have a different definition of socialism from Marx and Engels, a different definition of socialism that we do. All right. So let's get into a little bit of theory. Let me move these cans of beer to the side. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open up another page on another window. Let's go ahead and go to Capital, Volume 3. You guys ready to do a little, let's do a little theory. I'm ready to, everyone here's going to leave because it's theory, because nobody likes to read. Fucking, I ought to write some theory. I ought to write a book titled Marxism and the problem of nobody doing any fucking reading. Like, seriously. So while Capital Volume 3 is loading, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this page. Whoa, yeah. So guys, you ready for this? You ready for this? All right, cool. Let's go ahead and talk about, the way in which, previous socialist countries were socialist. So check this out. Okay, cool. Here we go. You ready for a quote? This is a quotable for all you guys. The specific economic form in which unpaid surplus labor is pumped out of direct producers determines the relationship of rulers and ruled, as it grows directly out of production itself and, in turn, reacts upon it as a determining element. Upon this, however, is founded the entire formation of the economic community, which grows up out of the production of relations themselves, thereby simultaneously its specific political form. It's always the direct relationship of the owners and the conditions of production to the direct producers, a relation always naturally corresponding to a definite stage in the development of the methods of labor and thereby in social productivity, which reveals the innermost secret, the hidden basis of the entire social structure, and with it the political form of the relation of sovereignty and dependence. In short, the corresponding specific form of the state. This does not prevent the same economic basis, the same from the standpoint of its main conditions due to its innumerable different empirical circumstances, natural environment, racial relations, external historical influences, from showing infinite variations and graduations in appearance, which can be ascertained only by analysis of the empirically given circumstances. All right. So you want to know what that means, right? In short, what that means is that the way that unpaid labor is allocated and utilized basically determines the form of economic mode. All right. In feudalism, it came in the form of rents. You had people work in the fields. You produce, 100 bushels of corn. Your landlord takes 30 bushels of corn, 40 bushels of corn from you. I don't know. But he takes those and he appropriates them for personal consumption and so on. Under capitalism, this form of unpaid proceeds of labor takes the form of wage labor. the worker getting paid for his labor power, what it takes to keep him showing at work, versus the value of the products that he produces. So, under actual socialism, the form of social surplus that is extracted is drawn up by political decisions and planners, basically. So workers are paid and social surplus is extracted, but all these decisions are made by economic planners, and they're done through political decisions. It's not the same thing as wage labor. Basically, it has to do with the fact that it's within the context of a planned economy where goods are distributed. It's kind of according to need. I mean, there is a price barrier, obviously, but the point is that money and markets don't really matter. They don't matter. They take a back seat when it comes to economic decision making. It's about what is rational, like what is really rational in regards to material resource allocation. And within capitalism, rational resource allocation is only tangentially related to the profit motive, but within the context of a socialist planned economy, it would be according to what society deems best, and you don't see this within Venezuela nor China. So that is a quote you can bust out to destroy the libs and the red social democrats with facts and logic. But my point is, Venezuela is not socialist. Anyways, I don't know. People say Mao would hate modern China, but I feel like he would approve because Mao was already starting to cozy up to fucking Richard Nixon and shit near the end of his life. But anyways, enough theory because I already lost. I rest my case. The second I even start reading theory, all y'all motherfuckers start leaving because it's boring. So I understand it. Attention spans fade, all that other jazz, but it's boring. I get it. I get it, guys. I get it. We'll go ahead and get back to the live stream. Give me a second. All right, cool. Chrome tab. Why am I even using Chrome? Why aren't I using Opera? But anyways.
Democracy has the monopoly capitalism still intact.
How could you have monopoly capital in an underdeveloped country?
Even if a country is not socialist, if they are improving their conditions, they are still part of the global class struggle against the imperialists. A social democrat in an oppressed country is an ally to all communists and all socialists because they're improving the conditions of an oppressed people.
Yes.
They take money out of hands.
But that doesn't make them socialist.
It doesn't matter whether you define Venezuela as socialist or not. They are part of the rising economic bloc that's destroying U.S. imperialism.
Yeah. So no, it's not socialist. Socialism is when the government does stuff. That's literally your argument.
No, socialism is when the government has supremacy over the economy.
No. By that logic, the Nazis were socialists.
And there's a caveat: a mass popular force has control over the government.
So yeah, Nazi Germany.
No, Nazi Germany was never socialist because it was
even though it just fit your two criteria.
No, Nazi Germany was a mobilization of the people on behalf of the monopoly capitalists to destroy oppressed people in the communist movement. Socialism is a mobilization of the people to rebuild and form society for the benefit of that people in society.
So literally by your definition, Nazi Germany would have been socialist because it did raise living standards. It was massively supported by the masses, right or wrong. It still was. Yes,
it was still capitalism. Nazi Germany was capitalist.
Yeah, it was still capitalist. It's not my definition that says it was socialist. It's yours.
They were lying just because they say they're socialist.
No, I'm not saying they were socialist. I'm saying by your definition they were socialist.
But the people have to be in control. So if the government has control of the economy, but it's still working for the monopoly capitalist or the capitalist, it's not socialist.
So yes, Venezuela is still capitalist.
No, the government of Venezuela works on behalf of the people.
So that's why the Venezuelan government has to continually fight against their own bourgeoisie.
And has supremacy over the economy. So Venezuela works for the people. Fascist countries work for the monopoly capitalists and arrange society for the benefit of the monopoly capitalists. Socialist countries arrange society and the economy for the benefit of the country.
So when 70% of the country is literally private businesses, it's not working for them.
As long as you can have any amount of markets by degree.
I didn't say markets, I said private property. And the markets would be another question altogether.
Real socialism is when I don't even know. By his definition, you absolutely could apply National Socialism. I just got off the line with the president of China. He was calling to tell me that for my transgression towards the Chinese government and for my actions against their top agent, Caleb Maupin, that they're going to deduct 5 points from my social credit score. And that I won't be able to pre-order the next copy of Dark Souls because of it, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, yeah, no, according to his definition, you straight up could define Nazi Germany as fucking socialist. It's fucking ridiculous. So it literally is. And if you listen to Infrared and Moppet, it literally is when the government does stuff. These people have, their idea of socialism is quite literally when the government does stuff. It's quite literally red social democracy. They just want an economy where the state is heavily involved, where you can still have your millionaires and billionaires and your money in your markets and your private investment. They're social democrats, guys. Like, really, like, hold on a second. Like, never mind. Name the difference between a Kyle Kalinske and a Caleb Maupin in the grand scheme of things. Besides, I mean, ignoring the fact that Caleb Maupin likes the Soviet Union and Kyle Kalinske doesn't like the Soviet Union. Like, fundamentally, what really is the difference between the two? You know what I'm saying? Now who's lacking? Why hasn't real socialism worked? Genuinely interested? I mean, I can't tell if you're shitposting or not, brother, but it has worked, and it's worked for hundreds of millions of people, and the development of socialism is it's a developmental process. It's like saying, why hasn't Christianity worked, you know? Why hasn't Christianity worked? The answer is that it has. It's just a developmental process. Like, it fails until it doesn't. Eventually, you have a model that emerges that is successful. Like, you had all these proto forms of Christianity, and then you ended up with Christianity as we know it today. Do I still think Cuba is socialist? Honestly, no. I think that I mean, it's a question as to whether or not they really were socialist, but nowadays Cuba just seems like China, but better. I mean, I'll give them proletarian state. I'll give them dictatorship of the proletariat. Tell you what, I'll give them that. They are a DOTP. I'll give them dictatorship of the proletariat. But as for socialist, I don't know about that. That private sector don't lie, and that generalized commodity production don't lie either. All right? I'm just saying. That's not to say I don't like Cuba. I do like Cuba a lot. They're doing what they got to do, but I do not like that they are liberalizing slowly and kowtowing more and more to the bourgeoisie. Because, as we all know, communism is a global economic system. You cannot have fucking socialism in one island forever.
We rest by degree. This is from Marx, the Communist Manifesto. You arrest all of the means of production by degree. And that degree is determined by what that government sees necessary and beneficial at the time.
So it's completely arbitrary.
No, they use scientific governance.
Which would be leaving 70% of the economy in the hands of capitalists.
And part of the reason why they can't progress and build their social is because of constant sabotage. And
I didn't say that. I don't think that it's that much of a hindrance in that regard. You could just take the company. You could just
take with Maoist third worlders.
Okay, no. This is basic socialist theory. Nothing is stopping Maduro from seizing these companies.
Listen, all right, guys, I don't want to go for that much longer. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna skip ahead to where he starts doing apologetics for fucking Chinese imperialism. You guys are gonna love this shit. You guys ready for this? You guys ready for the part where he starts hamster wheeling for why what China is doing in Africa is okay? Where they're just seizing ports and public assets that these countries are desperately in need of to participate in the global economy. And he's just coming along and saying, no, you have to understand, it's okay. China's bossing them around, and that's okay. That's a good thing. No, look at that face. Oh, this is where it gets really fucking good. Honestly, guys, this debate gets better and better as you watch it. Like, towards this end, this is when it gets really good. Like, we're gonna watch this part.
Within their society.
Okay, so you
They
criticize the
basically-
Great Leap. So you criticize the Cultural Revolution for not doing what was actually being done in the Great Leap Forward. And you
They
can
didn't
still
do it
criticize
right.
the Great Leap
They
Forward.
didn't do it right in the Great Leap Forward.
That wasn't okay. You can argue that. You can argue they didn't do it right, and I would
But
agree
it
with
was
you.
what was necessary.
Yes, but that didn't have to do with the Cultural Revolution.
The Cultural Revolution was a needless, ultra-left, violent, destructive time.
And you can think that, but that doesn't have to do with the
It really-
economic. You criticize them for
People
not.
hate- People were.
You criticize the
people were
Cultural
killing
Revolution for
teachers.
not focusing on economic development when that wasn't the point of it.
That was what was needed at the time.
Of
And they
course
were-
it was. That's why they did the Great Leap Forward.
What I'm getting to, I think the crux of our difference is you are ultra-left,
No, okay. Fine.
trying to install
The crux of the argument
morality
is ad hominem.
when we need to be scientific socialists, understand the material conditions, and build
They were doing-
socialism
they were
within
doing-
the current material conditions.
Material conditions are. Hold on. Wait. What? The Great Leap Forward. It was an experimental period where they were mimicking a lot of the mistakes that were made during collectivization in the USSR. The fucking Soviets warned them against it. Like straight up, the Soviets warned them against a lot of the mistakes. Like Khrushchev and his group are like, guys, don't do this. And Mao and his group was like, no, we're gonna do it anyways. And then they end up doing it anyways. And you know, it ends up leading to a lot of economic problems over the course of the Great Leap Forward. I mean, honestly, man, there's 1,000,001 reasons why the Great Chinese Famine happened, and all of which I'm not going to get into now. But I don't understand why he's going out of his way. It's very bizarre to me that he's going out of his way to basically shit on Mao's legacy when Mao's legacy is part of why China is where it is in the first place. You'd think he'd actually appreciate Mao and have a lot of good shit to say about Mao Zedong instead of coming along here and being like, oh, but the Great Leap Forward, oh, the Cultural Revolution. I actually unironically think the Cultural Revolution was kind of a good thing in some regards because scrubbing out the last remnants of feudalism and having a mass democratic movement where people actually take power for themselves. I mean, the whole point of the Cultural Revolution was democracy. I think in principle, there is a lot that can be justified behind it, and I like the concept of the Cultural Revolution. There's a lot of issues with its execution and many excesses, but I think there was a lot of positives that came out of that period as well. You know, a lot of progressive positives as well, a lot of experimentation. Shit, man, I think there was, like, even Jason talked about this in old videos of his where they were experimenting with gender abolition in certain communes where everyone was just wearing gender neutral clothing and they just had complete equality. I mean, I think stuff like that's cool. I just don't think it should take place within the context of like broke ass third world peasant communes, you know. I do think Deng has one point. Socialism is not when everyone's equally poor.
They were doing that during the Great Leap Forward. You can argue unsuccessfully, but that
Mao-
wasn't the point.
I
That
was
wasn't the point. You literally just confused the Great Leap Forward
No, I
with the
didn't.
Cultural Revolution. That's
No,
why
I
you're
didn't.
not answering it.
I
Why did
said-
you attack them for
I
doing
said the
something they weren't
Cultural
for not
Revolution
doing something they weren't trying to do?
wasn't focusing on what it needed to be doing. Which the focus should always be expanding the productive forces. That is the basis and the purpose of socialism, is to expand the productive forces. Because that's how we get to social. That's how we get to communism. Communism is the absence of scarcity.
So you're literally just not going to answer. You just screwed up and referred to the wrong thing by accident.
No, I did not. You misinterpreted what I said.
I'm
What
not
I said
misinterpreting
was-
what you're saying.
What I said was the problem of the Cultural Revolution was that they took the emphasis off of economic expansion and focused on an imposition of ultra-left moralism that you're also promoting.
Ultra left, again, you go back to the moralism thing. You think that getting rid of feudal ideas is moralism.
I think having massive amounts of red guards going around the country fighting each other, it's a focus
They
on
weren't
social-
ordered to fight each other.
No, but they were so chaotic. Red guards were killing off other red guards.
Yes.
Yeah, the Cultural Revolution was incredibly decentral. What's your point? It was overwhelmingly a positive, progressive thing for China in the long run. Just saying, all right? Out with the old, in with the new. You, as a fucking communist, should be able to respect things like this. Oh my God, am I sounding like a Maoist right now? Jesus Christ. Oh, my inner Maoist is fucking coming out right now. Holy shit.
That did happen. But where's this claiming this moralism from me coming from? That
Because
doesn't have anything to do with it.
they took the emphasis off the material and they changed it to social issues.
What is
they
he
tried
writing?
to make socialism
Have you guys noticed he has a pencil in his hands? Like, what is he writing? Like, what the fuck?
in poverty, and you cannot have socialism in poverty. You can't. Socialism is improving the material conditions on the way to get to socialism. And they went off and they started focusing too much
on... And this is something he says in the debate as well. Socialism is improving material conditions. It's advancing productive forces. Actually, no, it's not. No, it's not at all. As a wise man once said, hold on a second. We're going to close this out again, guys. As a wise man once said, socialism is the abolition of classes. It is the abolition of class society. All right. Now, this guy who says socialism is the abolition of class society, you know, towards a classless society, surely must have been an ultra left, right? So the guy I'm referencing right now who said that socialism is the abolition of classes and not simply the advancing of productive forces is it's this fucking guy right here. Kind of trumps your whole narrative that advancing the productive forces, right? I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't matter. I'm not saying that's not important, but ultimately, what good are all those advanced productive forces when you still live in class society? In the grand scheme of things, oh great, now I get to spend 60 years as a homeless person instead of 30 years as a homeless person. What a massive improvement, you know? Why aren't we prioritizing the class struggle? Why are we taking away from that shit? Why are we coming up with this goddamn fucking revisionist cripe, you know? Why socialist patriotism advances in the productive forces, this China worship, this idea that China is going to save the day and make the world better for everyone. China isn't going to save shit. Nobody's going to save us except for ourselves, all right? So stop expecting some other world power on the other side of the planet to do it for us. There ain't no hope except the hope we bring ourselves. There ain't no change except the change we bring ourselves. So no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, just keep moving forward. Do the best you can to spread the message and help as many people as you can, because that's ultimately all we can do. So that's my message. That's my thought. And I don't want no goddamn ism named after me in the wake of it. Just saying.
The cultural aspects of socialism and not the material. And that's exactly what you're doing. That is why you put so much emphasis on white supremacy. That is why you put so much emphasis on...
Oh, I'm sorry, that white supremacy bothers you?
That is why... No, but you're putting more emphasis on superstructure than you are the material basis.
Actually, I'm talking about national liberation, actually.
Of white supremacy.
Because it doesn't pander to your white American perception. I'm talking about national liberation.
Imperialism is national oppression and class exploitation.
Yeah, that's not what's going on here.
What is he writing? What the fuck? Why is he writing this shit?
We don't focus on the social aspect of something that's maintaining one of those material conditions. We focus on the material conditions of a whole and all of the contradictions that exist.
You mean that overthrowing process that's been a historical failure?
You focus too much on superstructure and not enough on economic reality, and that is why you support the Cultural Revolution, and that is why you don't support China, and that is why you don't.
I don't see what that has to do with China. I said I actually do support China. I said that now, and I said that before we went on air. Yes, I do. I don't support everything that they do. But even then, this idea that I only care about social has nothing to do with my criticisms of China. My criticisms of China aren't social, they're economic.
You think if China has any bad business deal with another country...
No, not bad business deal.
Then it's imperialist.
When you're exploiting one country or bullying it, to use your words, which you defended.
No.
So China
yeah, no, he straight up said earlier, you can rewind earlier and watching the debate, he straight up admitted that China bullies small African countries into basically giving up the ports that they build. China owns the ports. China owns all the infrastructure. It is all Chinese property. Africa has to pay back all these low-interest loans. At the best case scenario, these African countries are getting a better deal than what they would get out of the IMF and Loan Bank or World Bank. That's all they're getting. Well, otherwise, a rival imperialist power does not necessitate a anti-imperialist power. It does not make them a progressive force. It does not. It does not. It does not. So that's what he was saying earlier. So as you will hear, I really want to I'm going to speed this up even more. And if this is too fast, let me know. But I really want to get through the rest of this. I want this guy. I'm just saying, like, mask off. Fuck it, mask off. Mascot. Fuck it, mask off. Percocet. Molly Percocet.
Where the entire economic system is based to profit the other country, and they lose national sovereignty. China, when it operates with another country, operates on the basis of win-win trade and respects the sovereignty of other countries.
So that sovereignty is being respected by having a Chinese person on the African National Council, which I brought up 3 times and you refuse to answer. That's the national autonomy you're talking about?
China offers better conditions and deals.
Okay, so we're going to ignore the woman on the African National Council.
Yeah, I'm going to slow down a bit.
That's Chinese and is part of dictating the planet.
Well, wait, no, it's a Chinese woman on the African National Council. Okay, now it's better. The African National Council, which should represent the interests of the African countries, but no, a Chinese person is on there representing their but now it's a Chinese woman that makes it better. Good, little, let's sneak a little woke imperialism in there while we're at little woke imperialism. Not a man that is subverting the democratic will of the people, but a woman. Oh, so progressive, so forward thinking. I like that. Me likey.
But Google search can tell you that.
Just because you understand one detail.
No, it completely refutes your claim of autonomy. So the organization which watches over Africa literally has a Chinese person on it watching out for Chinese interests, and you think that's autonomy?
Revolution is a step forward.
Okay, so you're going to ignore that. Okay, so it's not. Really
no, I love it.
You
Guys, watch
like
legit. You guys need to watch the last hour of this debate because he straight up ignores all of Jason's fucking points for like the last 45 minutes of the debate. Like Jason's making very clear and concise points and demonstrating how China is like very clearly and obviously taking advantage of these African countries and James here is just ignoring all of it. It's great. It really is astonishing. It's crazy how he just creates like an ideological Great Wall of China to block out any and all completely valid criticism and detraction from his narrative. It really is. It's crazy. It goes to show he really is on the path. He is very convicted. I respect his conviction. He is on the Maponite path to becoming a level 20 cleric of the Church of La Roche. Just saying.
Everything in a socialist revolution has to be perfect.
No, I'm not saying it has to be perfect. You have to. If you're going to say you support national autonomy, you have to actually do it. You can't just wedge one of your own people into the African National Council to watch out for your own interests.
That China offers,
oh, see, now again, you're going to ignore it. Just go right to the trade, which you already acknowledged was bullying and was okay.
Sorry, James, you're full of it. The current period only helps the United States. It's keeping countries in poverty. It's no longer improving their conditions.
You do realize that under IMF loans there is infrastructure, not as great as there would be under China.
And then they use those IMF loans to implement austerity boards.
And then China uses them to literally steal people's ports.
That is a very good rebuttal. Very good rebuttal. There's another rebuttal that Jason does in here where he says that I find it ironic that you say you're in favor of national liberation and sovereignty for indigenous people, but then you're sitting here defending China, basically telling all these African people what they can and cannot do with their own resources. Something along that. I am butchering that quote, but he says something along the lines of that throughout the debate, and I think that's a pretty good slam dunk. I don't know.
They made a trade. They gave them a certain amount of infrastructure. They took the port. Overall, that country is better than it was before.
So you're literally saying because China put up the money for the port, China should be allowed to own another country's only port for trade. And in fact, even right in the actual contract, it stated that the country who...
As a communist, why should I care about this infighting bullshit? Don't we have better things to talk about than brain-dead internet drama? Honestly, this isn't drama. This is me reviewing a debate because I don't have a... So rather than talking about an incomplete thesis where I don't have all my points flushed out or all my ideas completely thought through, I decided to review this because it's entertaining and fun. You realize that we're here for that reason, right? This really is just, it comes down to entertainment value. This shit really is all spectacle when it comes down to it. I mean, the only difference between me and someone who's way bigger than me is like they're way better at it and they appeal to more people. I just appeal to a bunch of fringe fucking far left people on the fringes of society on the internet. And, you know, I mean, that it is what it is. Don't worry, I'll get you some informative content soon. I promise I'm not going to be doing this forever. Sri Lanka still gets like 30% profits from that port, and the ownership is time limited. Ownership, what is time limited? So China owns the port for how long? For like the next several thousand years? I mean, you're going to have to fill me in on that, Toba. But anyways, Chinese control over the entirety of the world's ports, 2050, yo. Probably. I mean, they are building the Belt and Road. Why doesn't random white guy read or watch the African people from various African nations think about China? What do they think about China? I need to look into it.
Got the port
The
was
deal with
contractually
China-
obligated. Was
the deal with
contractually
China-
obligated to put out a certain amount of business every year. If it did not meet that level, then it would default into China's hands. I'm sorry, you can't claim controlling another
deals
country's ability to
that
import
China-
export is not
The deals that
imperialism.
China is offering other countries
Okay,
are
so you're gonna
far
ignore
better-
the issue
are
of
far
the
better
ownership.
than the ones they
So
were
what?
forced to take to improve their own conditions.
So what? One kick in the balls is better than two kicking the balls. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean it's good. You
That's not how
literally will.
reality works. Reality doesn't work based
No,
on
reality.
morality.
Okay, sorry. Bottom line, you think it's okay for China to take the port away from the country?
I think it happens. It exists because of material conditions.
No.
It does
See,
not
China
change
didn't
that.
have to
That
didn't have to
China
write into the
doesn't have
contract that we own it.
It does not change
They didn't
that.
have to do
China
that.
is not imperial.
Sorry, that's absolute nonsense. China did not have to write into the contract. If you don't do X amount of business, we can legally take this from you.
They're being pushed and sabotaged as well. There's coming.
So that justifies China doing that. You're making it like, oh, the material conditions made them do it. No, they didn't. They wrote the contract that way.
Oh yeah, no, that's like his main point. He brings up earlier in the debate that, oh, it's material conditions that made China do this. It made China take advantage of these nations and so on and do what they're doing down in Africa because of Western imperialism. I think I probably skipped over it. I skipped over quite a bit just because I didn't want to review the entire debate. But yeah, I don't know. Ooh, where were we?
I'm sorry, but you're not getting away from that.
People are acting on moral authority.
Again, you're doing the Hudson. You're going right back to the moral, and you are not
If
addressing.
socialism is good and
You
right,
see?
people doing the right thing.
See, now you're doing the overacting thing.
Socialism.
Now you're doing the overreacting thing,
is
because you
a moral
absolutely
system. It's
cannot.
not the end of all immorality.
Again, you're going right back to the moral thing. You cannot, on any reasonable basis, justify China controlling another country's ability to import and export. Oh, well, material conditions, it just happened. Sorry, the material conditions forced me to write in the contract that you have to do that.
Why does China need to operate in
So wait, I ask you a question. You say, so you don't even know? Lol. Bro, I asked you how long the Chinese are going to own the port, and you proceed to ask a fucking stupid question. You respond to my question with the question. So what that tells me is you're not interested in actually injecting nuance yourself. So you're just nuance trolling yourself. Let's see. You know, I'm very tempted to ban you right now. I'm not going to lie. I am very tempted to ban you. But I'll give you one more comment. I'll let you decide why I shouldn't ban you. Provide me an explanation. Tell me, how long will China, if you tell me how long China will own that port for before it becomes property of that country, then I will not ban you. So you got to tell me right now, how long will China own the country? You have until 1 a.m. in the morning. You have until 1 in the morning to tell me how long China will own that country, or I will ban you on the spot. Not country, but port. You know what I mean, motherfucker. I'm drunk. But anyways. You have until 1 in the morning. Find the information, god damn it.
such? Why does China need to
turn
off portions of the internet? Why does
I
China,
wasn't talking about those things. That's their own people. They can make that decision for themselves.
But why do they need to do that?
So you're going to change it from doing something to themselves to doing something to somebody else. That's not comparable.
Why do they need to do that?
It's not comparable.
Why do they need to do
It's
that?
not comparable.
Because of the massive U.S. media machine.
That does not justify China stealing someone else's port.
They are in a bad situation.
You are trying so hard. You are trying so hard to justify.
They are in a bad situation, so we're gonna steal your port. Oh my god. I love it. This guy is basically the stereotype of the tanky. Like, you guys know the stereotype of the tanky that Bosch likes to paint? like how we like to call imperialism whenever it comes to any and all bad things that countries that wave the red flag do. This guy is literally that is like it's because of imperialism that China has to seize this person's port if they don't uphold their obligations or pay their debts, you know? So yeah, no, long story short, China is taking advantage of these countries, but they are providing them with a better deal. I really need to look more into it. I think that there is definitely soft power building, an imperialistic term going into it. I think the China apologists are way too fucking lenient on their perception of China. Okay, so there we go. I think it's around 50 to 70 years, but it's not static because the percentage changes during that period. There. Was that so hard? Was that so hard? There, you just avoided a ban. Congratulations. But remember, guys, it's not fucking imperialism when Yellow Man does it. It's when Yellow Man does it, it's fine. Well, I hope this has been fun. Honestly, guys, I would keep going, but I am quite tired. I worked very hard today, and I did just drink several beers. Do you guys want me to keep this stream up? Do you want me to go for a little bit longer? We'll go for a little bit longer. But let me know now if you would like me to keep this stream up, and I will keep this stream up. But otherwise, I will very likely unlist it. I thought you were trying to make nice with the Moppin. I would make nice with the Moppin if he didn't ban me. Like, if he was just willing to talk to me and confront some of the issues I have with him. The problem is, like, the Moppin, I mean, he's very busy, and I understand that. I'm always down to talk to Moppin. Like, I have nothing personally against Moppin with an individual. I just take pause and take issue with a lot of his ideas, as well as some of the people that he affiliates with. But beyond that, I don't hate Caleb Moppin. I really don't. I have nothing personally against Moppin. Like, seriously. I do this. I take the piss out of Moppin, and I take the piss out of the Moppinites, largely for entertainment value, but because I also disagree with their ideas, which is the reason why I do it. Anyways, keep the stream up. Go to bed if you have to. You know what? Fine. We'll go for a little bit longer. Fuck it. We'll go for a little bit longer. Fuck it. That's what I say.
China doing that. No, it's not. Doing something to yourself is not the same as doing it to someone else.
That happen in the anti-imperialist bloc are primarily the fault of the larger economic imperialist system and not the leaders of those governments. So the leaders of those governments are reacting to the material conditions, and you are imposing.
So you're telling me the material conditions forced China to write that into a contract?
They are forced.
Yes or no?
China is acting within its material interests
to control the port of another country. Yeah, technically it is. When you do control that port, you're the one who makes money off stuff going in and out. So the ability of a country, you are full of it. Oh, because of sabotage, it has to control somebody else's port. Is that literally your argument?
China is a force for good in the world.
Okay, so you're going to ignore that. You're going to ignore that. Okay, so you literally will not deal with the issue.
China is an ally of the
okay, so yes, you're ignoring it once again. China good.
I'm familiar with a specific issue, and I cannot address it.
Oh, okay, because it disproves what you're saying.
No, because I'm not aware of it.
It is true.
Well, I'm not aware of it.
So are you claiming it doesn't exist?
Are you arguing with my overall argument that China is not a benefit to the international proletariat?
I'm saying you can't claim it's not imperialist when it's doing that. And you can't claim it's respecting national sovereignty when it has a Chinese woman on the National African Council.
Even if you were to call them imperialists.
Okay, so literally no. So literally no. So the answer is no. Do you think having a Chinese person on the African National Council to watch over Chinese investments is respecting their national autonomy?
No, there are instances.
Okay, so you're not going to
No, damn, he did answer it. Whoa, hold on, guys, he did answer it. Let's back that up a bit. He did actually answer it. You got to listen. There's a very subtle no. It's a very subtle no. Like, go back a bit. Watch this. 32. There we go.
So on the African National Council to watch over Chinese investments is respecting their national autonomy.
No, there are.
He said no. He said no. He said no. Oh man, he's in denial. He's just in full denial. I don't really know what else to say. Like, he's just trying to win a debate. You know, it's really weird when you're debating someone and you're just in a position and you feel very married to that position, that you're going to defend it and you're going to do fucking mental jujitsu and do ballerina tricks and gymnastics just to uphold and maintain that position. That's kind of what this guy's doing right now. He's just trying to argue for it for the sake of arguing with it. I don't know. Like I said, he's a good dude. He seems like a good dude. I just feel like he's a little bit too drunk on the ideological Kool-Aid. I don't know. I just feel like he should be a little bit more conciliatory towards Jason's points, because I think Jason makes a lot of really good points over the course of this debate. But anyways,
China has problems with respecting other countries' national autonomy.
Okay, so they really don't respect other
But
people's
that
national
doesn't
autonomy.
make them imperialists.
Okay, so that doesn't make them imperialist. You know,
But they
putting
also
people in
limit
government in
trade.
foreign countries to watch their own investments doesn't make them imperialist. Controlling another country's ability to import and export doesn't make them imperialist.
Imperialism
James, you
requires
have no way of defending that.
private. Imperialism requires a private.
Okay, so yeah, so it's not.
A private clique of.
It can't be
capitalists
imperialist because it's yeah. So circular reasoning.
okay, so this is the nuance we need. A Taiwanese ship did close the Sri Lankan port just before that, so it is a logistics problem probably on some level. She is on the health board of the ANC. I don't really know how that derides or takes away from that, but okay. Fact noted. It's hard admitting one is wrong in public on a debate. You may actually think about it after the fact. Yeah, you know, that's kind of the funny thing, you know, about being wrong. And this person, when a person is just completely hit with the facts and they're doubling and tripling down and they are dedicated to dying on this hill, and they are absolutely committed to dying on this fucking hill, no matter what. But then after the debate, they go home, they make a lunch, they go take a shit. While they're sitting down on the toilet, reading the newspaper, they're thinking about that, you know, because it's kind of weird because people don't actually like admit that they're wrong out front. It usually takes time for them to admit that they're wrong because they have to think, they have to recollect on what just happened, on the entire conversation at hand that just happened and transpired before they actually come to the conclusion that they were wrong about something. Admitting that you're wrong and admitting that you were on the incorrect side, I mean, it takes a humble pie. It takes some stuff to admit that you're wrong. So I don't know. Maybe he might come around. Maybe he might come around. He seems like a decent dude. He seems like a good dude. I don't think that. I mean, he's either too far down the Moppanite path. He's got fucking bestow greater curse and summon elemental ally 7. And he's got all those high level Moppanite spells, and he's too dedicated to the path in order to, you know, change his ways. But maybe, just maybe, he has what it takes to become an atheist cleric. I'm sorry that sounded so nerdy, but I am a pathetic nerd when it comes to D&D Pathfinder. But anyways, is Jason debating Caleb's father? It feels like it. I don't know. He doesn't really look related to Caleb, but if Caleb had a dad, holy shit, this dude really is like a lot like Caleb. He talks like Caleb. He dresses like Caleb. He has a fucking bookshelf behind him like Caleb. Jesus Christ.
Even under socialism, pure perfect socialism, there would be no way of justifying that. And this is the socialism that you want to bring to Native peoples or Black people, where you can have somebody else
that arises in the United States.
Okay, yeah.
From its particular.
Okay, so is it acceptable to have a white person from the Communist Party sitting on the national board of indigenous people running their own land to defend interests of those people that have invested in that land? No, I didn't think so, because it wouldn't be. But it's okay when China does it because it's allegedly socialist.
Even that would be an improvement than the current conditions.
You know, you're literally doing the way in a way you're kind of okay, not really. You are literally defending undermining national sovereignty. Yeah, but I'm helping you, so it's better. That was literally the logic behind residential
You were
schools.
focusing on morality.
No, don't cry morality. This is national autonomy. Either you
Basis.
have national autonomy or you don't. How is having another country controlling your port national autonomy? How is having representatives to watch for the interests of another country on your thing doing that?
Ending imperialism does not end.
So again,
all
so you're
aspects
not
of
going to
respecting
answer the question. You're just going to go back to China good.
You are moving it way forward in the future, saying, "Oh, there's a
that's not in the future. That's happening right now.
There's autonomous indigenous nations. There are no autonomous indigenous.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the things that China are doing right now with the port and the women on the African Council.
That I was going to be a white communist.
Dude, in retrospect, I always thought speaking of admitting when you're wrong, I used to think Jason was not that great of a debater because I remember listening to his debate with Man in the Wall and thinking that he didn't do a very good job. But now, in retrospect, I realize how hard he is nailing this guy on this fucking port. I changed my mind. Jason's actually a really good debater when he wants to be. Like, holy shit. He is not letting this guy go. He is trying so hard to slip away from this point. He is trying so hard to slip away from this point, but Jason's not letting him. Holy shit. I wish I could keep people nailed to the fucking cross over this kind of shit. Like, seriously. I let fucking bad faith actors get away with this shit too much. Like, there were plenty of opportunities during my debate with Cheshire Cat where I could have nailed that little motherfucker to the cross, but I did not, and I regret it. Ugh. But Jason's doing a very good job here.
Was oppressing an indigenous.
You're undermining national liberation. You're justifying the undermining of national liberation right now by justifying China in those two things.
The leaders of the African continent, anti-imperialist countries, see China as an ally.
So literally, no, you're not going to answer that. You're going to go off onto something else. China good. You're not going to answer that.
You are asking me a question about morality.
It's not a question of morality.
Not about.
No, that's not a question of morality. How is deliberately putting someone in a position who benefits undermining that, supporting that? Sorry, no, it's not. It's not morality. It's actually just common sense. How would that in any way, shape, or form be morality and not basic national autonomy? You're literally defending national autonomy.
Even arguing anymore.
How is China respecting other people's national autonomy, which you claim that they were, by doing those two things? And the only thing you've answered is, oh, well, material conditions force them to it, or China good.
I think that's something you're misunderstanding.
No. You give me a reason why China should be able to do that. Give me a reason.
The blame you put on Maduro is because you do not fully understand the conditions.
Okay, now we're changing the subject to Maduro and away from the thing that you couldn't answer.
I do not have all the answers.
No, you don't have an answer because there's no way you could possibly justify that position. You could not justify what China's doing.
Morality. Justify. That's
you're the one who has to justify it. You're the one who has to justify it. You cannot. No, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I am saying that China,
if you are saying,
on the whole, is a
okay, so we're just going to ignore that national autonomy thing that China's doing wrong. We're just going to ignore that. You will not answer it. Tell me why China should have someone on the African National Council. Tell me why China should control the port of another country. What is your basis for thinking that's okay? You don't know. Well, let me tell you something. That's wrong.
It doesn't contradict my larger narrative.
Yeah, okay. So in regards to what China is doing in Africa, in retrospect, the Soviets are not guilty of doing anything like that. I mean, the Soviets did do similar things, and this is something that I've heard ultras say about low interest loans, zero interest loans, and how what China is doing is basically the same thing the Soviets were doing. Yeah, but the difference is that the Soviets didn't own any of the infrastructure that they built in the third world countries that they were operating within. While they did have jointly owned enterprises, much of the infrastructure and machinery that they shipped to these countries were the property of the states of these countries, their firms, their state-owned firms, be it India, Pakistan, Egypt, the Warsaw Pact, and so on. The Soviets did not really economically benefit that much, but these third world countries benefited a great deal. In fact, the Soviet economy actually suffered with respect to its trade relations to the Warsaw Pact because it heavily, and I mean heavily, subsidized Warsaw with lots of fuel, lots of cheap ore and minerals and resources. And in exchange, the Warsaw Pact would sell factory equipment to the USSR above market prices. So Warsaw Pact got cheap-ass resources, an example of which would be like Poland. Back when Poland was socialist, the Soviet Union sold gasoline to Poland as low as 20%. 20%, 1/5 global market prices at the time during the 1960s. And this is an example of how incredibly generous the Soviets were, and like how they actually suffered because of how much they heavily subsidized the development of socialism. So people who say the Soviets were imperialists, quite the opposite. Like the opposite economic relation was taking place. The Soviets actually suffered for subsidizing these countries. China, as far as I can tell, it's private firms that are doing all this. Private firms in China that are investing down in Africa and building all that infrastructure. As far as I can tell, they're doing what the IMF is doing, but they're offering a much better deal. They're offering a much better deal, and what they have to offer. While the Soviets were actually trying to help these countries, China is really just trying to out Game of Thrones America, as far as I can tell. That's really what it seems like to me. China's just trying to out Game of Thrones the United States. Nah, Maoist China was foreign policy. I don't know. China, you would have to explain. 111. What are the ones for? Yeah, no, I agree. Jason won. Jason definitely won. But as I was saying, when it comes to China, fuck. As I go on, I get increasingly drunk. But I'm gonna play this. We're gonna do this till the end. God damn it!
China is an ally of the global.
That's what an ally does.
Against the imperialism led by U.S.
That's what an ally does. Is send someone in there to watch over their investments and control your ports. That's what an ally does.
While they're improving the conditions of that country compared to what Western loans have to offer.
So because there's infrastructure development going on, China's allowed to do that. That's
it is
what you just said.
Trade. Both parties benefit.
So yes, it is allowed. So yes, it is allowed.
It is a different economic system.
So you do think that's okay, and that is helping them?
It is an evolution.
No, don't give me that crap.
Right
China
now,
could choose not to do that.
The world right now is two forces. Imperialism.
No, stop trying to use U.S. imperialism as a justification for undermining the national autonomy of other countries. They are the ones
that making control of the entire political economic order.
I literally just gave you the examples of how they were undermining someone's national liberation, and you justified it.
Responding to those conditions that the United States has created.
So, because the United States is imperialist and gives a worse deal than China, it is okay to have a woman on the African Council.
It is in Africa's interest to deal deals with China instead of.
It is in Africa's interest to hand over sovereignty to another country.
It is in Africa's interest to do deals with China compared to the United States.
He is right about that. That is fucking certain. China will give you low interest loans you could probably pay off within the next century. The United States, the IMF, will give you loans which you will spend the next several thousand years paying off. So he is right about one thing. China is offering these countries a better deal, but that does not mean the relationship is not exploitative. He doesn't want to make that connection. Once again, he blockades, he closes his mind to that possibility. That it's totally irrelevant, and it just goes to show there are no contradictions within the Maupinite sphere of thought.
By undermining their autonomy, which you claim China's respecting.
I do not have to put forth a position that rectifies all injustices.
Well, when you're saying that it's socialism, that's what socialism is. Yeah, you really kind of do.
Socialism is material advancement. It is not an end of all injustices in society.
Material advancement, that's only part of it. You're an idiot. Socialism isn't just advancing the productive forces. It's the abolition of class society. It's creating a society that works towards the benefit of everybody. Why are you... Yeah, okay, fucking smartphones with 10 gigabytes of memory instead of 5 gigabytes of memory. Sure. I'm all about that, improving living standards. But I want to do it on an equal basis where we all thrive and we all benefit, not on the basis that we are now where we all benefit tangentially while a minority of private oligarchs hoard everything. So oh my God, for all these books, for all this literature I see right here, there sure is a fucking lack of theory with respect to class struggle. Jesus Christ. This is your brain on Dangism. Seriously.
Economy for blacks and Native Americans when you're justifying China doing it to someone else.
Surplus labor. And early stage socialism, there's still extraction of surplus labor.
And what does that have to do with undermining their national autonomy? What does
It's
that have to
another
do with it?
example of an injustice that can happen
So
even within a
what?
system
That
moves
doesn't
past
justify
injustice.
it.
It's no longer the monopoly capitalist imperialist system.
That doesn't justify it.
More things. It is
Okay,
very
so
early stage
socialism is when you control another person's ports and their...
that may exist within an earlier
No,
stage.
it shouldn't exist at all.
That may exist. It does not make that social.
You don't get to claim they respect national autonomy and deliberately do those two things to undermine their national autonomy.
They respect national autonomy a hell of a lot more than the Western.
Okay, well, that's not what I asked you.
Imperialists.
It doesn't respect it at all by doing that.
But it benefits both parties involved. It's
Bullshit.
It's
If I punched out your brother right now, does that mean I respect your family?
Okay, well, hold on. It is a very silly debate, but yeah. What do you think would happen if China went around U.S. dollar hegemony? The U.S. military would start killing off Chinese nationalists and go into overdrive, cutting them off from global econ. I don't know about that. Here's the thing: the reason why we're getting the Belt and Road is because it is to undermine U.S. petrodollar. It is to undermine U.S. dollar hegemony, specifically for that reason. It's to create a trade route and to create a trade system or a trade network of some kind to where the United States, they can subvert the dollar. That's the whole point of that. And that's the reason why we want to get into Xinjiang, or why we were doing our shit in Xinjiang, is to disrupt the Belt and Road. That's why now they're shilling to stay in Afghanistan. It disrupts the Belt and Road. That's really, really what it comes down to right now. But 20 to 40 years from now, Israel and China will be military allies. Yeah, they will. China already fucking plays defense for Israel. Are you fucking kidding me? China's fucking allies with Israel. They're on the seat. You know, like, I'm just saying, like, China doesn't give a fuck about national liberation or socialism at this point. Are you kidding me? They've abandoned that shit a long time ago. Yeah, China's trading in their own currency. Exactly. They're going to subvert the dollar. China is basically going to replace the United States with the next few decades. And they won't even need to do it as a military power. They're going to do it as a fucking trade power. If we're going to try to go to war with China, I mean, Cockshot made a great video where he talked about the potential for a war in the South China Sea and how we would basically get our shit pushed in if we were to fight China within the South Sea. We would get fucking raped. There's no way we could beat the Chinese. Like, I honestly, my money's on China when it comes to a war with America. I have no doubt in my mind with their infrastructure, with how well they are organized, with their numbers, oh Lord, with their resources, China flat out would beat America. America, we have a powerful military, but we are far from invincible. You know, I think people put way too much stock in how powerful the U.S. military is. I mean, super carriers and our airplanes, like, super carriers are nice because they can project presence in the air, and they can project presence, air superiority very quickly. That's the advantage of our carriers. But once the Chinese start sinking our fucking super carriers, once we start losing men left and right, I'm telling you right now, once we start suffering heavy casualties in any sort of confrontation with any war, we will fold like an accordion. Our military is actually a lot more flimsy than you guys might think. Oh, okay, yeah, we're bombing a bunch of third worlders to death that can't fight back. What happens when we're actually up against a force that can fight back? You know? We're going to get fucking destroyed. Like, none of these people that are in the military now don't know what true war is. They don't know what total war is. They don't know what real devastation is like. The people that are in the military now are a bunch of fucking pussies that grew up during a time of peace. We aren't living during an era of war like World War I or II, or the Cold War, where made men are fighting one another on the battlefield. We have people facing up one another in this very impersonal way with drones that are shooting each other with drones. They aren't even shooting each other in the eyes anymore, you know? So, like, the second we start suffering heavy casualties, our military will morale will immediately fall off a cliff, because we haven't suffered heavy casualties. We haven't, like, been in a serious war with a serious power that poses any sort of threat to us on a scale of military might-wise. But if we were to go up against China, or God forbid Iran, we would get fucking destroyed. I'm just saying, The fragility of empire is real. While the U.S. military rocks some serious technological might, they are far from invincible. Right? Just saying. Anyways, guys, it's been real, but I am very fucked up right now. If World War III is declared, workers must rise. Honestly, man, I kind of hope World War III comes sooner than later, because every time, guys, every time we have a world war, socialist regimes start popping up left and right. That would be very nice. I mean, I'm not saying I'm from a humanity standpoint. No, it would be horrible because a lot of people would die. But from an organization and like revolution standpoint, it would be great because it would make people so much more receptive to our message. Like it really would. But it really is. Like, I'm just saying, I'm not saying Posadism vindicated. Yeah, unironically. It is a little fucked up. It is fucked up, but I think that's World War III or the climate apocalypse are ultimately what it would take in order for us to realize socialism, I think. All it would take is a catastrophe that would cost us an incomprehensible amount of human life in order for us to get fucking socialism again. I think that's what it would take. But anyways, I'm going to sign off, guys. I'm exhausted. I would have reviewed more, but it is very late and I am very drunk. But you guys have a nice night. Take it easy.